I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. Feel free to put your questions at any time in the chat, and I'll answer them for you live. And if you're watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you with resources. I may cover your word in one of our Word of the Day classes, or I'll send you a link if I've already covered your word elsewhere. So at the beginning of class today, I want to talk about the words write, as in I write with a pen, and right, as in right versus left or right correct, how they're pronounced, and then we'll also look at some of the conjugations of the verb to write. So we'll talk about wrote and written. This was a request from a viewer, and I think it's a great topic because it helps us look at sounds and spelling, and to be aware of how spelling may affect how we think words should be pronounced. So to write and something is right have the same pronunciation, even though the spelling is different. These are examples of how we spell the I diphthong. So I is a diphthong, which means a vowel that I make by gliding between two positions. It's not two separate sounds. It's not ah and I. It's that my tongue, my mouth starts in the position for ah and ends in the position for I, and it ends up sounding like I. So this is the same other spellings of I, just I by itself. The unusual spelling I, like my eye that I see with. And commonly, when we have the letter E, the silent E at the end of a word, it does what we say, makes the letter say its name. So letter I is the I diphthong. If I'm naming the letter I use the diphthong I to say that. So I says I in words like right, or this is also a word, right, because of the E. Versus if I have a word like, if this were a word writ, then it would be not the I diphthong, but rather the lax I vowel. Another way we spell the I is with IGH, like in right, or sight, or sigh, or night. I often use this spelling when I'm using my alternative spelling to mark that I diphthong, because letter I more often will say I than I, so that's a helpful thing to know about. And if I'm saying I write, he writes, you write, etc., that's the present tense form of the verb. Then one of the past tense forms, the regular past tense, is an irregular verb, so the I changes to an O. Again, O is a diphthong in English. I'm not saying O and but I'm gliding O. So as I say O, hold it longer, get a little bit more lax, and close your jaws. You're saying O, wrote. Rote is also a word like rote memorization, and these two have the same pronunciation. The O, again, letter O says its name when we have a silent E at the end. I should have mentioned also that W is silent in both right and wrote. We just have the sound there. And then another way that we spell the O diphthong is an OA, like in boat or coat. We don't have a word wrote. I've just written that here for you to think about that O vowel and how that sounds. Then when we move to written follows a pattern of using what's called a stopped or unreleased T sound and a syllabic N. So in American English, we don't say written. We don't have a puff of air, not an aspirated T there, and there's no vowel before the N sound. So British English, written, it was written. American English, it sounds more like written. So I make that T, I stop my vowel. It's the lax I vowel, writ, and then I go right into the N by itself, written. So the written word, my written work, I need that as a written document, etc. This is the same pattern we use on words like button, cotton, etc. And you can get more help for how we say the T in the middle ends and the ends of words in my videos for that, as well as in my Sounds of English course. I'll walk you through all of the different pronunciations of T in American English. This is one of the most typical American sounding patterns, is how our T's differ from other dialects of English. So once you can say write, wrote, and written by themselves, practice them in some short phrases so they come smoothly and naturally to you, and that when you're using them in conversation, you're not struggling with the pronunciation. Okay, thank you for that suggestion. I'll turn to your questions now. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you here. If you're just joining us, you can put your questions in the chat at any time, or if you're watching as a replay, you can leave your questions in the comments, and I will get back to you with answers. So we have a question about common pronunciation of AT beginnings of words. I'm not sure, are you meaning words that begin with letters AT? So for example, a word like attend, this letter A is going to be vowel schwa, because the stress in attend is on the second syllable, tend, attend, and so that means that letter A will sound like an sound, attend. It's a very reduced vowel. My tend is lengthened and it has the clear F vowel, attend. Attention, same thing. Other words with AT, if I'm just saying the word at, then my pronunciation of the A is an A vowel, and I will have a T there, at. Again, I might use a stop T depending on what's next. Or if I'm saying at a friend's house, at a party, then I'm going to use a flap T, and it's going to sound more like a D, atta. And let's see, I'm trying to think of a word that has AT at the start with where the stress is there. If you think of other words you'd like me to model for you, I will. Likely it's going to be an A if it's stressed, and it's going to be an schwa if it's unstressed, in the letters AT at the start of a word. Great question, thank you. And if I didn't quite hit what you were going for, you can type in the chat again and clear up for me what you were asking. Okay, we have a question about the word envisage. So envisage has the stress on the vis syllable. That means that we can say this as envisage, or this might be an envisage, because again, we're unstressed on the first syllable here, so it may have the reduced vowel. I'm going to write it as in. You can kind of think of it just as envisage, that it's going to have very little vowel, it's going to be somewhat reduced. And then my viz syllable is going to be stressed. Letter S says the Z sound, it's voiced in envisage. And then letter A is again going to be a reduced vowel, an sound. And the GE in this word is the same as the J sound that we spell with letter J in words like job or jump. So envisage. What do you envisage for 2023? That's a good word. Thank you for that request. Then you also wanted to know about the word scintillating. So scintillating. In American English, we have the first syllable stress here. The C is silent, so it just sounds like sin in the word simple, or sin in the word sin. Scintillating. Because in this case, scintillating. In this case, we do say the T. When we have an NT combination in English, we either drop that T in American English, like in a word like interview, we would say interview, or we say a true T. So those are the two choices for T. In this case, I would probably say it with a true T, scintillating. This is going to be an I or an sound, cinta. It's unstressed, so it's going to be a reduced vowel. And then we're not stressing on the A, but we do have a clear vowel there. So it's just like the word late, except that we will use a flap here. So it'll sound more like a light D sound. Scintillating. Yeah, it was a scintillating conversation. Great. Okay, thank you for that request. We have a request for the words hour and whether they're the same. Yes, I do have a video covering this and some other homonyms. So hour and hour are the same. One difference though that you'll note, so they both have the ow diphthong, or the hour diphthong. So it's the ow vowel. So they sound the same, except that if I'm saying it's been an hour, I'm going to use that full hour diphthong. Often, if I'm saying our friends, our work, I can say our friends, but usually I would only say that if I was putting some extra stress there. We're going with our friend. We're going with our friends. You can hear how it kind of doesn't flow very smoothly. It highlights our a little bit too much, like we're going with our friends, not your friends. This our often gets reduced down to more of an R. So we're going with our friends, we're going with our friends. That's a phenomenon where diphthongs with R, like or, our, or triphthongs like our, get reduced. So I might say instead of or, it becomes more of an and R becomes more of an So if I say, for example, we are going with our friends, unless I'm stressing particularly extra on our, or our, it'll sound more like we're. So this will get reduced to we're or we're going with our friends. We're going with our friends. So that's one way you can hear the difference. If I said we're going for several hours, I'm not going to say we're going for several hours. This one doesn't get reduced. It always stays hour. This one becomes more of an R. Our habits, our work, etc. So it's confusing because it's not incorrect to say our friends, our habits, but you can hear how that slows down the speech. It doesn't sound as native-like and as natural to say, we need a minute for our rehearsal. Yeah, that's another good idea. So you can say a 4-hour rehearsal, we need a minute for our rehearsal. So if I'm doing 4-hour, it's going to become more like for our. For our children, for our children. For our environment, for our environment. So clear and reduced pronunciation of those. Yeah, I do also have some videos specifically about reducing for and R and how those reduce down to an sound. I've been covering that lately, and you can get more details on that as well in our Sounds of English course, where we walk through all of the sounds of English, spelling versus sounds. And another course you might like is our Real Talk course. That looks at the written words and the spoken sounds in connected speech and how we would make a difference between for and fur, depending on the stress, our and R, etc. Thank you for bringing that up. There are lots of interesting things to talk about there. Okay, let's see. We have a question with threatened me. Oh, it's nice to see you here. I saw your comment earlier, and yes, definitely different if you're just trying to say threaten versus threatened, and also if you're trying to say threatened me. Not threaded me, but threatened me. So if I'm saying threatened, if I'm saying the word by itself, threatened, what's going to happen is that we have here for the T, we have a stop T, threaten. So just like at the beginning we were talking about written, threaten does the same thing. It has a stop T and then a syllabic N. And then when I go to threatened, I do have to put that D sound on. If I'm saying, for example, he threatened a child, he threatened an employee, then that D is going to link to the vowel, and I'm going to hear the D released. But if I'm saying threatened me, Right there, I was releasing the D so you could hear it. He threatened me. He threatened me. You might hear someone use that kind of, again, with an unreleased D, like threatened me, threatened me. So it won't sound that different from threaten me. Threaten me. Threaten me. Don't threaten me. I'm going to have a flowing n to m. Don't threaten me. He threatened me. Threatened me. You can hear how it doesn't flow. There's an interruption. So I'm either going to use that D, threatened me, and you're going to hear me, threatened me, or I'm going to not release that D, and you're going to hear that there's a break. So threaten me, no break, and I can just go, threatened me, threatened. I'm kind of swallowing that D, kind of a little bit glottally, a little bit back, threatened me. He threatened me. So this is probably, with the stop D, is how most people would say it, which was why it's hard for you to hear the difference between threaten me and threatened me. If you want to be absolutely clear, and if a native speaker wanted to be very clear that it was past tense, threatened, he threatened me, they would put a little D sound on, kind of as a grace note to the me. He threatened me. He threatened me with extra work. Okay, that's a really good phrase, challenging. A lot of details there because we have the stop T, the stop D, the syllabic N, and then what happens when we link. Hopefully that helps you to hear that and be able to produce that, say that more easily. Thank you for that request. Okay. Okay, so clarification on the AT, words that start with A. Same thing though, if you're looking at, just like with AT, if you're looking at about, around, if the stress is on the second syllable, like it is here, then the A is going to say it's going to say schwa. If you're looking at stress in the first syllable, like after or apple, then the A is typically going to say the A vowel, like cat and man. So no different between AT and just A at the start of words. I do have a number of videos talking about the letter A and the different sounds it can make in different common words. Again, as you know, we have 15 vowel sounds in English, but only 5 letters or 6 letters that we use to represent those sounds, and we aren't consistent in spelling the sounds the same way. So getting a handle on what the vowel sounds are, listening for them, what words they're in, some anchor words for that, all of those things can be really helpful when it comes to decoding words and knowing what you're supposed to say for a certain letter within the word. I talk about that in my videos here on the channel and in our Sounds of English course. It's a great way to build a strong foundation to understand spelling and sounds, and to be able to use resources like the dictionary to be able to listen for and recognize what letters are there. And of course, for specific words, you can search on the channel or search on YouTube, put in your word that you're looking for and speech modification. And if I have a video for that, it should pop up. Or you can also leave a comment on any of my videos for your particular word or question, and I can direct you to resources here on the channel. So nice to see so many of you here today. Welcome, everyone. We have a question about let's see, I missed one of your questions. We have a question about distinguishing the words source and sauce. So for source, we have the or diphthong. So if you think about it, it's similar to the word sore, but then you're adding the s sound for letter CE, source. So you might think of it as kind of sore, because if we spell with 2 S's, that may help you with that S sound. So to focus on that, maybe saying or the source, or you could say for sources. That can help you match those ors across the words. Sauce is the ah vowel. So it would look like this, saw. So you can think about, like, I saw the sauce. And again, I'm going to write two S's there because if I just wrote saws, that would be a Z sound. And in here, the S letter C, you say the S sound, this sound. So I saw the sauce. I have 4 sources. If you know, one of the advantages here is that if I'm trying to compare for and saw, I'm probably not going to have any issue with that. They sound really different to me because the other sounds in the word aren't the same. When I go to source and sauce, more difficult. So use that for to help you with source and that saw to help you with sauce. Having those kinds of contrasts can be really helpful with these minimal pairs that you may have challenges with. Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, I'll take a couple more quick questions and then we'll wrap up for today. Just to let you know, we have our on the channel daily word of the day videos. These are all requests from you, the viewers, and I'm working my way through a long list of those requests. If you've asked for something, it may take a while to get it, but don't fear, I am working my way through. And there's a lot to be gained from watching videos about specific words because you learn about patterns, and oftentimes an error or something that's challenging for you in a word, one particular word, is cutting across other words because of the pattern in that word. You can start to recognize that. It also just helps you listen for sounds, break down words, and see them visually. So the Word of the Day playlist is a wonderful way to get in the habit of just slowly building your skills for pronunciation and accent in English. And of course, I have a number of other playlists as well, walking you through accent patterns, reductions in linking, intonation, and then some of our playlists of our shorter videos of how to pronounce specific names, specific letters, food names, etc. So do check those out. On the channel page, at Speech Modification, you can see the different playlists. You can also see some challenge playlists that are geared towards accent training, where you can go through a 30-day challenge. Also, our channel members have access to our Sounds of English challenge and our 5x5 challenge. Those are, again, some of the fundamentals for accent and pronunciation, and then the 5x5 is a little bit more integrating your skills, kind of some next steps for your accent. So I hope you'll check those out. Okay, wonderful. So I think we'll wrap up here today. It's been a wonderful class. Thank you for your great questions. They gave me a lot of opportunities to explain some great concepts that should be helpful for people. I'll be back again tomorrow with our regular word of the day, and next Saturday with our live question and answer class. I hope to see you there. Thanks for a wonderful class. Do check out the resources, free and inexpensive online courses on speechmodification.com. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.